In this video, we're going to overview the syntax search engine. This is probably the most difficult search engine to learn and use. To access the search engine, let's go to the main menu, locate the search magnifying glass on the main toolbar at the top left, and click it once. When the search window opens, locate syntax here at the right and click it. Now, the syntax search engine has several options. You can search Old and New Testament, but the syntax search engine is dependent upon syntactical databases. In fact, if we click here at the drop-down menu, you can see what syntactical databases you have in your library. You may see some of these, you may see none of these, you may see all of these. It all depends on the collections that you have. For this video, we'll look at several of the syntactical databases. For this first part, let's go ahead and locate Cascadia syntax graphs of the New Testament. To the left of that, you see all passages, so we can search on specific ranges like we've done before. Now, down below, you can see the help window. We can have a help manual. If you click on that, that'll open up the Logos help book. As you can see, there's really not that much information in here. Let's go ahead and click the X on the tab to close. Now, there's also an Ask in the Syntax Search group. This will open up the web page to the Logos syntax search. Keep in mind that you'll see questions pertaining to the syntax search as well as other search engines, so be aware of that. Let me go ahead and click X to close this tab. Also, you have search templates. Now, if you click this, it essentially opens up the hamburger menu here at the top left. You can see how that's been toggled on. Now, in this case, we're not seeing any search templates here. Let's go ahead and click that hamburger menu to close it. However, if we go over to Query, and this is how we would create a new search, we click on Query, you'll see that there is some templates after all. So this is the place you want to go. Now, the templates are split into two types. The first half represents templates where you'll be entering Greek or Hebrew words. In this case, Greek words, since we're searching a Greek New Testament data set. The second half is where you can enter English words, but you're still searching the syntactical Greek database. Very important distinction. Let's go ahead and begin by clicking on English Subject Cascadia. Now, right away, you'll see Logos has placed right here a box that we can type in information. Let's go ahead and type in love, L-O-V-E. Notice a drop-down menu. Select from the menu. Let's choose the first one. Now, we can press enter. We can click the white arrow in the circle, or we can click the go button. All three will kick off the search. Let's click go. Now, immediately, Logos will search for the English word within the Greek syntax data set or database. Notice it also highlights the word and the phrase. This is really neat. So we're seeing the word love in red, but we're seeing the whole phrase in gray. And this is really handy when you're trying to understand groupings of words, because one of the benefits of the syntactical search engine is that you can search at the clause level, or in other words, at the phrase level. You can search within these clauses and phrases. This makes searching very powerful and very precise. Now, if you can't read Greek, no problem. Notice the add versions options included here, like the other databases, like the other search engines. Go ahead and type in NASB 95 and then click NASB 95, New American Standard, to select that. Then click in the box again, press enter once, press enter twice, and now the translation's been added at the right. So now we can see in English what the corresponding Greek words mean. Now, this is a very basic search. We're just searching for the subject. Now, this is important. We're looking at how that word is functioning in the sentence. Love is part of the subject. Now, if we were to click on that passage, let's say Matthew 24:12, and actually go to that Greek word love and float our mouse over it, we would see at the bottom, agape, noun, nominative, singular, feminine. Turns out nominative is the Greek way of designating this is the subject of the sentence. We also can see in the syntax graph the letter S. If you float your mouse over it, Logos gives you a little tip to tell you and define this particular letter, S for the subject function. Now, this is important to take into consideration. Syntax graphs are showing you how words are functioning within the passage. Now, the function usually shows up and matches the morphological information, but not always. So with the syntax, you're searching on function. Now, the neat thing about the syntax engine is you can search on both the syntactical tagging as well as the morphological tagging. Now, if your window looks different than mine, let me explain. Up at the top, you have the alpha, omega, interlinear icon. And to the right of that, there's a triangle you can click. Let's do that. By clicking on the triangle, you can decide what you want to see in the syntax graph window. Now, if I check all the boxes, you can see that my syntax graph has expanded and I have a lot more information. You can turn these on and turn them off based on what you want to see and how much detail you want. Let me go ahead and click the X to close this window. I'm going to double click on the right border, and you'll see when I double click the right border, it immediately fills up half the screen. It's a nice little shortcut to resize the window. So this is a very straightforward first use of the syntactical search engine. You're using search templates. Now be aware that the rest of these syntactical data sets, some have templates, some do not, but they all work the same way. You click a template and then you enter information, run the search, and look at the search results. For the rest of this video, I would like to spend time showing you how to create the syntactical searches manually. So to do this, we need to go over to the right and click on English Subject. Notice, by the way, that today we have this search. We can see that there. This time, instead of clicking on one of the templates, let's click on New Syntax Search. Now, right away, a window will open up that's undocked, and depending on how many computer screens you have, it'll fill up one of the screens. So mine right now is filling up the screen here. Now, notice at the right, we do have the same templates, so we can run this again, but watch what happens when we click on it. I'm going to click English Subject Cascadia. Notice that we didn't get a little pop-up box, rather, Logos populated the search for us. Now we can go in and begin to make changes. So this is a visual representation of the previous search we ran. Let's go ahead and close this window by clicking on the X at the top right. Now, what I'd like to do next is help you develop your own custom searches. This is a strategy I've been using for years, and if you really want to learn how to run syntax searches, this process I'm about to show you is key. Now, to do this well, you really should have two monitors. One monitor for looking at the syntax graph and the second monitor for developing the search. Otherwise, with one screen, you have to go back and forth, and that's just going to slow you down. Unfortunately, for the training, we're going to have to stick to one screen. Let's go ahead and close all these windows are open by clicking Close All Panels. Now, the first thing we want to do is open up our Cascadia clause visualization book. Therefore, click on the library icon, type in Cascadia, and type in clause. You'll get back several search results if you have these resources. The ones we want to click on is Cascadia Syntax Graphs of the New Testament. You can also click on the Cascadia Syntax Graphs of the New Testament SBL edition. They're identical. Let's click on the first one. Now, when you first open it up, you're going to be overwhelmed by all the information. For sake of training, I'm going to keep this very simple. Therefore, go up to the top where the alpha omega icon is located, then click on the triangle just to the right of it. And what we want to do is uncheck several boxes to clean up what we see visually. Let's get rid of terminals. Let's get rid of phrases by unchecking both those boxes. Okay, this is a much simpler view, and it's a lot easier to see what we're looking for. Now, if you want to search on those details, you'll need to re-enable this. Now that we have the graph open, let's now open the syntax search. So locate the search magnifying glass at the top left and click it. Click on syntax, make sure it says all passages Cascadia, and over at the right, we see query. So click on query and click on new syntax search. Now, as I said before, it opens up into an undocked full window. Let's go ahead and right click on the tab and choose dock this tab. This does limit what you can view since we're squeezing both windows into one screen, but this will work for what we're going to do. Now, the way you develop a syntax search is to go to a specific passage and then build the syntax search off of that passage. Now, currently, we're in Matthew 24:12. So what we're going to do is go over to the left and click on all passages and type in Matthew 24:12. Logos will then list the reference below, right here, Matthew 24:12. Click Save once, and then click the white arrow in the circle a second time. Notice that Logos automatically populated the reference name. We want to keep that the same as the verse range, So go ahead and click the white arrow in the circle at the right. Now, once you click that circle, notice now it no longer says all passages, but Matthew 24:12. So go ahead and click Matthew 24:12 to close this window. You could also press the escape button. All right, so our search range is just the passage we're trying to create a search for. All right, so looking at Matthew 24:12, we want to look for a specific combination. So here's a CL that represents clause. And when you build searches, you always start from the outside or the most left and then work your way to the most right. So let's say we want to find this combination of a clause with an adverb, a verb, and a subject. And if you float your mouse, you can see all these tags. So the first thing we're going to do is float our mouse over CL and look at the bottom. It says clause. So let's go over to the left and click the plus symbol and locate clause and click it. Our clause has been added. Notice the information at the right has changed. Now, what do we know about this clause? Now, if we float our mouse over the CL, we'll see a pop-up, and it says clause verbal. So that's how we know what kind of clause to select from under clause type. So click on the box, verbal clause. All right, you're doing great. Let's leave everything else the same, except don't forget, you must always, always check this box, matching skips levels. All right, it's checked. We now can go to the next item. Now, the first item we see here at the right is ADV, adverbial functions. How do we add that to our syntax search? Go over to the left, float your mouse, and you can see that there's a plus to the right. Let's click on that one. What is this? Is this a clause? No. Is it a clause function? Yes. How do we know that? Well, if we float our mouse over the ADV, look down at the bottom. It says adverbial function. There's our clue. So let's go back to our verbal clause, click on the plus, and choose clause function. Now, if you click on something incorrect, you'll be able to know that by looking at the options. In this case, we did click the correct one. We do see adverbial, so let's click it. All right, so our search is matching what we see at the right pretty good. Now, I'm not going to worry about this detail under here. What I want to focus on next is this one, the V verbal function. Now, this is just like the other option we just clicked on, but we're going to choose verb this time. I'm going to choose clause function, and I'm going to choose verb. So the next one we want to choose is V for verb. So let's float our mouse over adverbial, click the plus symbol right underneath it, and then choose clause function. Our options change at the right, locate verbal, and click it. But don't forget, we got to check the box matching skips levels. Now, before we proceed, I need to make you aware of how to remove an item. So if we right-click on any item, you'll see a menu will appear. Now notice we can highlight this term and matching skips levels. But more importantly, we have a cut, copy, and delete. Now if you choose copy, it'll take that block, put it into the computer's memory, and then if you float your mouse and a plus appears and you right-click on the plus, you can paste that item right there. Now if you right-click on an item, you can also choose delete to remove it. Let's now return to constructing our syntax search. Therefore, click on verbal. Now we have one more item, and that's the S, subject. Notice again at the bottom it says subject function. So that makes it pretty easy for us. So let's go to verbal, float our mouse there, click the plus, locate clause function. Then at the right, locate subject, and click it. We're almost done, but we have to remember, check that box, matching skips levels. All right, so we have a clause, and we have adverbial, verb, and subject, and we're searching Matthew 24:12. Let's test our search by clicking search. Now, if our search was correct, we should get back Matthew 24:12, and we did. So this is great success. Now, what I want to do is add some additional highlights to make it easier to read. So let's click on the X to close the search tab, and I want to click on adverbial. Notice that we forgot to check the box matching skips levels. So let's check that box and let's click highlight this term in results. Now let's go ahead and run the search by clicking on search at the top left, and there you go. Now, this is interesting. Look how much information was highlighted because lawlessness is increased. That is the whole adverbial clause or phrase. So this is very powerful in showing you all the words connected to the adverbial part of this clause. Let's click the X and close the search window down located here. Now let's click adverbial, uncheck highlight this term, and let's click the second option, verbal to. Let's check the box, highlight this term in results, and then click search at the top left. In this case, the verbal clause is at the end of the verse in the English, and we can see those 3 words highlighted there. So I think you're starting to get the hang of this. Let me click the X to close the search window. Now, obviously, this is a very simple example, but all the principles remain the same. So in review, open up your syntax search, create the search, search against your passage, make sure everything's set the way you want it. Once you've done that, then you can expand your search to all passages. So let's click our Matthew 24:12, then click all passages, and then click search. Now this answers the question, why are we doing this? The ability of the syntax search to search on patterns, grammatical, syntactical, and morphological patterns is now possible with the syntax search engine. So now you can see if this grammar, this syntax repeats elsewhere, and this can help you to see if words and phrases are used consistently. This can strengthen an interpretive argument if you can say this pattern of speech that we see here is also followed in another passage. And the cool thing about this is we're not doing this based on specific words or phrases. We're looking at syntactical construction. So it can be any verb, any adverb, any subject, and we can see if the pattern holds. So this is a very powerful tool. I highly recommend that you spend time with it, but I'll be honest with you, I only use this occasionally, and it's only when I'm trying to work through a technical problem in the text. Now, there's one other feature I want to show you. I'm going to click on clause function verbal, and this time I want to add a specific word, will grow cold. So I'm going to click on the plus to the right, and I'm going to choose word. Now, I'm going to use the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom here so we can see it more easily. Let's go over to the right and right-click on the Greek word. Notice we now have the full menu. Locate the circle icon, then over to the right, click on text for copy reference. Then go into the lemma box, right-click, and choose paste. So that's an easy way to paste the Greek word into the lemma box without you having to type the Greek word. Click and press enter, or click the white arrow at the right. Don't forget to check the box, matching skips levels. And let's highlight this term as well. And then let's go back to our clause function and uncheck the highlighting term in results. So the only thing that should be highlighted is our word. Let's go ahead and click search and see what our search results look like. And sure enough, there it is, will grow cold. Now you may see this repetition sometimes, and that's just due to the way Logos database works. All right, let's go ahead and click X to close the search window. Let me show you one other feature that you should be aware of. Some of the databases have some pretty powerful search capabilities when it comes to words. So let's click the Cascadia syntax graph, and this time I'm going to choose the Lexem Syntactic Greek New Testament. I'm going to use the horizontal bar at the bottom to kind of scroll so we can see the add search term here. I'm going to click it and choose word. Now I'm going to click on word, and then over the right I'm going to scroll down. And I want you to see this. In the Lexem syntactical database, you have some other search capabilities. We can search on syntactic force. If you click your mouse on the heading, that will select all the items in that list. So look at this. You can search on syntactic force. You can search on all the varieties of infinitives, participles, nominatives, vocatives, genitives. This is very powerful and very helpful. In Wallace's Greek Grammar Beyond Basics, he talks about some of these genitives. You now can search on this grammatical form. There's all the forms of datives, accusatives, adjectives, articles, pronouns, adverbs, conjunctions, various types of prepositions, particles, predicate particles, other, and even various types of clauses. Each of them has these special capabilities that you should be aware of. Let's click on the Lexem Syntactic Greek New Testament. Let's click on the Anderson-Forbes Phrase Marker Analysis Dataset. Using the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom, let's go to the far left, and then let's click Add Search Term, and let's choose Segment. I'm going to scroll up to the top, and notice the various options we have here. We have the parts of speech, the semantics, but look at the text type. We can search on the text type narrative. We can look at divinity to divinity speech, divinity to human speech, human to divinity speech, human to human speech. And you can see all the options there, even other speech, like angel and human or donkey to human. We can search on the JEDP theory, as well as other items here, such as the Holiness Code and the Mowinkle Code as well. So each database set has some of these special items and special capabilities that you should be aware of when using them. And this will help you sometimes to decide which database to use or not. Let's take a look at the Lexham Hebrew Bible Cantillation Analysis Database. Let me use the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom to scroll to the left and click on the plus item. Now look at this information. We have High Emperor, King, Prose, Duke. What is going on here? Well, let me open up the database so you can see. So I'm going to click on the library icon, type in cantillation, click on Lexham Hebrew Bible Cantillation Analysis Graph to click to open. Let's go to Genesis 1:1. All right, so here we are at Genesis 1:1. Now, what's going on here? Well, if we float our mouse, we can see that Logos has separated in the Old Testament all the words and phrases based on the Hebrew accents. And these Hebrew accents have different names. You'll see the letter H in there, the letter E in parentheses, K, etc. So if we click on the plus symbol, you can see these letters. So H for High Emperor, E for Emperor Prose, King for Prose. These represent the items over here. But if we look at Genesis 1:2, we do see the D's and so forth. So just be aware that those letters in parentheses can guide you to these items. Now, prose would represent anything but poetry. Poetry obviously would be the Psalms and sometimes occasionally other texts. It just depends. So you do have the capability within the Lexham Hebrew Bible to search on the accents or the cantillation groupings within the Hebrew Bible. This does require a little more education to understand these things, but hopefully this is enough information to at least help you explore this more deeply. Well, this concludes an overview of the syntactical search engine.